Hello. Okay, broski. So look, there is a whole lot. Hold on a minute. Everything is Gucci, right? I can't see, bro. All the way up. Okay. Now you know you gotta check every so often, bro, because like sometimes it'll be acting crazy like that. Okay, look, bro. There's a whole lot going on in the world right now, right? Like there's a whole lot that's going on, obviously. So much going on in the world, but this is the most important thing that's going on in the world right now. I have to make this. I wasn't even going to do this. I wasn't even going to make anything today because I had a lot of other stuff to do. But with all this happening right now in real time, like it's necessary to talk about this right now. This has to be talked about right now because it's happening right now. The world globalistic affairs are changing on a global level in a way that the world has not seen in a very long time, right? In a very long time, and probably will. Who knows the next time it'll ever see it? But this is a worldwide global affair that's changing the entire outcome of events for forever. The entire shape of the entire globe is going to look very different here soon. It's going to look a lot different, actually. And it changes the way that events happen across the entire planet, on every single continent, from here on out for the rest of human civilization. So, and of course what I'm talking about is the Iranian war. What is happening in Iran right now is the most important global event on the face of the earth and is really the only news story that should be broadcasted 24/7 around the clock at this moment, because this has to happen, right? This has to come to pass. Because Iran, as I'm sure you know, as most people know, Iran is the biggest number one state sponsor of terrorism in the entire world. Iran has, in modern history, always been the number one state sponsor of terrorism in the entire world. Iran is not a friend of the United States. They're not a friend of Israel, obviously. But they're not just not a friend of Israel or Iran. They're not a friend of any European country. They're not really a friend of anybody. They're not a friend of anybody. And people would say, well, they're friendly with Russia or maybe someone else. But that's not really true, because that's more of a comraded, we have a common objective, so we'll help each other right now agreement, as opposed to actually being allies. They're not really what I would call allies. And so, which is why I despise the fake news, despite the fake news that has come out and said, Vladimir Putin is telling people to leave Iran alone. No, he hasn't. That's fake news. It's completely made up. Well, I'm so annoyed by people that make up fake news stories and put quotes of people's pictures on memes and then share it around the whole internet, and everybody has this idea that something's going on when it's not. I don't even understand why people do that. Like, what do you get out of spreading a fake news story that you popped up out of your own imagination while you were just sitting there inside of a room somewhere, and then you just had this idea of like what if I just told this entire false story that never happened? Like, I don't understand why people do that. Like, I don't, especially for like a global event. Like, what's the point? What do you get out of that? Like, I don't even understand why people do that in their own local level, like gossiping about their friends and family or whoever it is. But why would you do that on a global level? Like, you don't even know these people. Like, you only bring more harm to the situation. You just constantly help perpetuate the cycle of ignorance that we see in the world. But anyways, that's a small little who cares about that, throw it away. Iran, what's going on in Iran right now is the most important development in the Middle East, maybe ever, especially recently, right? In modern history. It's on par with any event that's ever happened in the Middle East ever. That's for sure. So, like, to understand what's going on in Iran, you have to understand quite a few things first, right? Number one, you have to understand that you have to understand geopolitical mantra, and you have to understand that Iran is the most powerful country in the Middle East, I would say. Probably Iran, besides Saudi Arabia. Maybe Saudi Arabia might be a little bit more powerful, and that's because of their oil and because of the Saudi princes and where they register in world events behind closed doors. A lot of people say that the Saudi princes are billionaires, which obviously, but a lot of people would say they're worth like maybe 5, maybe 10 billion combined, and I don't know about it. Those numbers are way off, bro. Like, those are the official numbers of they're worth about 5 or 10 billion. I'm telling you that the Saudi princes are worth a whole lot more than that. A whole lot more than that. Those are registered numbers. Unregistered numbers, it's a whole lot different, man. That's a whole nother game. I think they're worth up to 10 times as much. Well, maybe more than that. 10 to 50 times, no exaggeration. Way much more than what people say that they're worth. Those people are worth a lot of money. Why the world globalistic affairs decides not to put their actual numbers of their actual net worth on there, I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know. But there's a reason why. These people don't want people to know that they, as a family, probably have more money than Elon Musk. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But the thing is, so Iran is top 2 most powerful countries in the entire Middle East, politically, economically, and militarily. Iran has a powerful military for the size of their country. There you have your top 3 in the world, which would be the United States of America, Russia, and China, right? Obviously, we all know that. But then when you start getting into your second-tier level countries, Iran is probably close to the top of that list in most powerful militaries on the earth that are outside of the big 3, right? And they're no small matter, and they never have been. There's a reason why, even though Iraq fell with Saddam Hussein and Afghanistan, and you see so many things happen everywhere, Iran constantly seems to never fall. They always seem to avoid the consequences of their actions until now. There's been many protests throughout Iran for the last 5 decades since they were taken over by the Islamic regime. But every single time that something starts, even when it's happening in other Middle Eastern countries, even when it's trendy, even when Saddam Hussein falls, right? People protest in Iran, but then Iran just starts shooting protesters, and then it gets shut down. And then Afghanistan, the same thing. And then when Gaddafi goes down, and Egypt went down, and these things are toppling, Iran starts pumping it up, they just start shooting protesters, it gets shut down. It's happened every single time. But this time is different. Because you can only push people so far until they say enough is enough. And now the people of Iran are saying enough is enough. We already know that you're going to murder and shoot and slaughter people. We don't care. Enough is enough. And you're going to pay the price for your actions. Iran is the number one state sponsor of terrorism in the entire world. Iran constantly gives money to Hezbollah, Hamas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban. Every single major Islamic terroristic organization in the Middle East in the last 50 years has been directly funded by the Iranian government, by the Iranian Islamic Republic. So Iran is the number one state sponsor of terrorism in the entire world. And that's really interesting, right? Because then that brings you into the horrific... The Iranian regime goes on national TV and tweets on Twitter live for everybody to see. We will nuke Israel off the face of the planet. He uses the word nuke. He says we're gonna get a nuclear bomb and we're gonna use it to nuke Israel off the face of the earth. And there's nothing that anybody could do about it. And he puts it on Twitter for the whole world to see. And then he says after that we're gonna go nuke the United States of America too, for the whole world to see. And then they begin enriching uranium, which is how you make a nuclear bomb. The most important ingredient would be enriched uranium. He goes and starts enriching uranium. And then they claim, after saying I'll nuke Israel off the face of the planet, after saying I'll nuke the United States of America, then they claim, well, we're not enriching uranium because we're trying to make a nuclear weapon. We're enriching uranium because we need nuclear energy. Yeah, but the interesting thing about that is any nuclear energy program that's for nuclear energy for, energy just to help, for whatever they say it's for, to help electricity and various other things, nuclear energy, those people are always enriched at 30%. About 30% enriched uranium is allowed to help create nuclear power. But Iran enriches their uranium at 60%, twice the amount needed for nuclear power. Why do they enrich it at 60%? Because to create a nuclear bomb, you need 90% enriched uranium. And you could go from 60 to 90 in the blink of an eye. It's very easy. So they keep them at 60 so they could run to 90 if they ever need to, because they plan on making a nuclear bomb, which is against international law, obviously. Although, if we're being real, all the governments of the world are enriching uranium on a regular basis, whether anybody realizes that or not. But Iran would be the biggest threat to get a nuclear weapon because they outrightly sponsor state terrorism, and they act like they threaten to bomb entire civilizations off the face of the map to that they'll never be remembered. They say it on Twitter for the whole world to see, make no apologies about it, deny that the Holocaust ever happened. And also, they're not exactly the most level-headed people I would see on the earth, so you don't really want those people to have a nuke. They might not even think ahead, like to a World War III scenario. So, because they're suicide bombers, right? As long as they're taking you out, it doesn't matter if they die too. Okay, so that's the Iranian government, right? The Iranian Islamic Republic. But what you really need to understand about Iran, to understand this whole revolution and everything that's going on right now, you have to really understand what's actually going on with geopolitical affairs. This is what you need to know, okay? Break it down. The history of Iran. Iran is not a Muslim country, nor have they ever been a Muslim country. This is really important to know. Before 1979, Iran was not ran by an Islamic republic. Okay, even back it up before that. Since Iran was a thing, Iran is Persia. And Persia was founded by King Cyrus. King Cyrus the Great. That's in secular history recognized as creating the Persian Empire. In Iranian and Persian history is recognized as creating the Persian Empire. And in Jewish and biblical history is recognized as the king that created the Persian Empire. King Cyrus was a friend of the Jews. King Cyrus led the Jews from captivity to the Babylonian Empire and set them free and allowed them to go free. The Jews love King Cyrus, the Persian king. If you go throughout Israel, they all talk about Cyrus all the time, the Persian king. Persia knows that history as well. The whole world does, outside of indoctrinated people who just started getting their education from a couple of universities in the last 20 years. Every single historian for the last 6,000 years knows the history of King Cyrus, the Persians, and the Jews. Okay, so fast forward, Persia, you have to understand, Persians are not Arabs. Arabs are not Persians. That's very important to understand because Islam, Islam came thousands of years after Persia already existed, right? And after all the nations in the Middle East had already existed. But the problem is this, that Muhammad, if you know about Islam, then you know that Muhammad wrote the Quran. Muhammad, who was born 500 years after Jesus Christ, and who visited Jerusalem and read the Torah before he ever wrote the Quran, and said out of his own mouth that he thought that he was demon-possessed. That's a real thing, not making up. He actually said that. And that he would foam at the mouth. He thought he was possessed by a demon when he would hide in the caves. Got a group of men and then created this religion, created Islam, and he claimed that the Jews and the Christians had gotten the real history of Abraham wrong, and that when the Bible said it was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that it was really Abraham, Ishmael. It was really Ishmael and not Isaac. And then created an entire book, the Quran, that promoted what Muhammad claimed was the real narrative, that Ishmael had been the chosen seed, and that this is what God was actually saying about that storyline with Ishmael. And he wrote the Quran. Before Islam came around, Arabs were mostly polytheistic. They're not monotheistic. Monotheism was regarded pretty much in all of civilizations, almost universally, was only a Jewish and then a Christian concept. But all other civilizations, Europe, Roman, Greek, pagan, Egyptian, Persian, Arabic, all other civilizations regarded polytheism, multiple gods. The Arabs were no different. When Muhammad came around and he said, no, it actually is monotheistic after reading the Torah, but it's Ishmael, not Isaac, he went and picked one of 300 Arabic gods to name his god in the Quran after. And he chose Allah, the god of the moon god. That's where you get Allah from. That's the reason why the symbol for Islam is a crescent moon with a star, because it's the god of the moon is who Allah is. Okay? Then Muhammad goes and he gets his ragtag band of terrorists, quite literally, and he goes across the Middle East, and he goes across modern-day Iraq, modern-day Middle East, and he begins to kill and murder all of his dissenters or anybody that refuses to accept Islam as the one world true religion. They go and they rape women. They murder men, steal women, rape women, and molest children. And they have many wives. They believe in what's that word? Polyliminous. I don't even know how to say it. relationships. They have many wives. Poly something or other. I know polytheism's many. Poly always means many. If you didn't know, Poly is the prefix that always means many. Mono is the prefix that always means one. So polygamy, that's what it is. Polygamy is one relationship. Polygamy, many relationships. Monotheism, one God. Polytheism, many gods. So they believe in multiple wives, but not multiple husbands, of course. And then Muhammad gets married to a 13-year-old girl who he consecrates the marriage by sexual intercourse. That's how you consecrate it. So he molests a 13-year-old child and then makes her his wife. And that's the history of the so-called prophet of Islam. Then they go on to militarily take over the entire Middle East. At that point, modern-day Afghanistan and Iraq, at that point, in around when Muhammad was around, they were actually considered, they were not Muslim nations. A lot of the Middle East was actually, there was a big Christian influence in a lot of the Middle East. And Islam came in and took over all that. Okay. So, fast forward. Now, Muhammad, when he says that Ishmael was the chosen one, Muhammad means that Arabs are the chosen people of God instead of Jews. That's quite frankly what Ishmael is over Isaac and the Jews. The Jews came out of Isaac, the Arabs came out of Ishmael. So he's basically Islam, and Muhammad preaches Arabic supremacy, obviously. Well, that's important to know, because then you also have to know that Persia and the Persians are not Arabic. They're not Arabs. So they aren't classified as being under Ishmael in the eyes of Islam or Muhammad, or in the eyes of Persians. Persia doesn't classify itself or group itself with Arabs. They're a totally different group of people. So in 1979, the Islamic Republic comes in and it takes over Iran, which is Persia. Except that here's a couple of myths that most people don't know about the 1979 Islamic Revolution because of propagandized nonsense. Number one, that at the time that Islam took over Iran, Iran was not a Muslim country. Number two is that it was not an organic movement within inside of Iran. That was not a movement that came up because of Iranian people. That was a color revolution that was created by communists and Islamists. Actually, if you look at it a little bit differently, if you go and do some history, you'll see that at that time, right, 1979, we're in the 60s and the 70s. This is right before Reagan comes onto the scene, and the world is in a Cold War and has been for 20 years. USSR versus the United States of America. So these two communists and capitalists are fighting across the globe for influence across the whole world. That's where you got the Vietnam War from. That was a battle between communists and capitalists. That's where you got Korea from. The Korean War between communists and capitalists ever since World War II concluded up until the 80s. When Ronald Reagan came around and the Berlin Wall fell, it was always a constant battle between communists and capitalists for control over the world. Every section of the world was a battle between the Soviet Union and the United States of America over, is this going to be a communist or a capitalist country? The Korean War got split in half, North Korea communist, South Korea capitalist, same for Vietnam, so on and so forth. And then China becomes a communist country. Okay, so while Russia's the Soviet Union, you could get super deep into Russian history. There's so much there. It's crazy. It's a very intriguing story how they went from a czar to communism. It's crazy. It's really weird. It's really crazy. And if you go and look at it, Russia invaded Afghanistan. That's real history of the Middle East. A lot of people don't know because for whatever reason, they're just not teaching this in schools anymore. But all my historians understand that Russia invaded Afghanistan, okay? So what happened with Iran was that the United States of America, after World War II, developed a foothold in the Middle East because of a new Jewish state that had not been there previously, but had been there thousands of years before the fact with the Jewish people. And because of the Holocaust and 6 million Jews being murdered by Nazi Germany and Adolf Hitler, and because of the Dead Sea Scrolls found by a little young child that was playing with a ball and knocked a ball into a cave that knocked over some vases that broke open and found some scrolls inside, discovered that in fact that the Jewish people had absolute historical relevance and roots inside of the Middle East, and that Israel was a country that existed at one time. Inside those Dead Sea Scrolls was an entire copy of the Bible, the Torah, the Old Testament, and the New Testament, 1-to-1 copy, with a book of Enoch that was also included, and various others that were written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and proved that the modern Bible had not been mistranslated because archaeological evidence called it 2,000 years old, and it was a 1-to-1 copy of the Bible that we have today. That's the thing that a lot of people use to prove that the Bible has not been mistranslated over 2,000 years. As a result of that archaeological evidence, which is widely accepted by all archaeologists, atheists, Christian, Jewish, whatever it may be, Hindus and Buddhists and everything else, Israel, they said, okay, this is your nation. They brought Israel back. The Jews came back to the Middle East, and they created the state of Israel in 1948. So now, since Israel, which is a capitalist country, the Jewish state, which has history because of Judeo-Christianity, Christianity coming out of Judaism, and America being a Christian nation, Israel and America became allies and have been very close friends. Now, as a result of that, the United States of America has a foothold. If you're a communist and you're the USSR, you say that the United States of America has a foothold in the Middle East. So now we have to get our foothold in the Middle East too, just like with Asia. So they invade Afghanistan, and then they also orchestrate the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979, where communists, USSR, and Islamists who get along because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Islam, you don't like the Jews. We don't like the capitalist Americans. The Jews and Americans are friends because of Judeo-Christianity. So communists and Islam, we could get along to try to perpetuate our agendas. We'll invade Afghanistan. I'll help you overthrow Iran. You turn it into Islamic Republic and you become a friend of communism and Soviet Union Russia. And that's how it actually happened. That's actually what happened. So it created an Islamic revolution over the Persian people, even though the majority of Persians were not Muslims. And it was not an organic revolution within Iran, and Iran did not want to become a Muslim country. The Shah of Iran at that time, who's the king of Iran, they had a monarchy before the Islamic Republic, propagandized by people that wanted an Islamic Republic in Iran. It was claimed that he was a dictator, although the people of Iran never seemed to feel that way. And when he fled, did he flee to a dictatorship country? Did he flee to Russia? No, he didn't flee to Russia. Did he go to another dictatorship country? No, he fled to the United States of America, which is a democracy, because he felt like he had more in common with a democracy than the rest of the world. And America took him in, the Shah. And he had a son who's still alive today. That's important for what's going on right now. Now, so all this time, for the last 47 years, there's been a constant divide between the Persian people and the government of Iran, the Islamic Republic. So, what you see is, you have to understand all that to understand what's going on right now. Most people would tell you that, and we know the Soviet Union fell, and that broke their power, a lot of their power in the Middle East. And a lot of other dictatorships fell as well. World events changed. The U.S. continues to be a superpower. Israel grows in power and might and creates one of the most cutting-edge militaries in the world. Radical Islam accelerates. Russia pretty much takes its hands out of the Middle East, at least on a major level, just simply not because they want to, but they just don't have the capability of constantly staying there when the Soviet Union has fallen economically. Islam comes, and then that puts us into about the 90s, and then we get to 2001, and radical Islam is now the front face of everything on the entire news network, and for whatever reason, you get to 2008 and beyond, and then Islam has pushed itself into Europe and has pushed itself into the United States of America and has pushed itself all over the whole world. But yet, while Islam is pushing itself into the Western world and communism, the Eastern world, the Middle Eastern world, they're becoming less communist and less Islamic. And it's really interesting, right? It's a cultural, political shift. It's really interesting because maybe that comes from America celebrating their victories over communism and over their enemies and thinking that the war was over because the Soviet Union fell and now there's nothing to worry about. We won. It's over. It's done. Let's move on. And the communists and the Islamists said, what are you talking about? It's not over. It's just getting started. So they kept fighting. So all of that needs to be understood so that you could understand this. The Persian people are not Arabic. They're not even Muslim. The Persian people don't hate the Jews. They don't hate Israel, and they don't hate the United States of America. In fact, the Persian Empire created by King Cyrus started off as helping the Jewish people, and still recognized by Israel today as being a friend of the Jewish people, right? So this is the truth of the matter today. If you ask most people in the world today, because of jihadist propaganda and the forefront of Islam, the forefront of Iran, which is the only thing you ever see on the media, they will tell you that Iran is 99% Islamic today. That is a fallacy. It is a lie. Iran is not mostly Muslim today at all. Actually, 70% of people in Iran, of Iranians, do not pronounce Islam. And in a poll taken 5 years ago now, this is a 5-year-old poll, 71% of Iranian people said that they were not Muslim. And they did not consider themselves Islam. That means that only 30% of the country was considered Islam. That was 5 years ago. It's probably much smaller now. Now it's estimated that it's probably around only 25% of Iran is Muslim. Or maybe 20% or less. It's gotten so small. That's one of the reasons you see in this major revolution over the Islamic Republic. You have to understand this. People think that that Iran is 99% Muslim. The only reason they think that is because the only words that they ever get from Iran are all completely crazy, pro-Islamic, radical rhetoric. But that's because they're not hearing the people. They're hearing the Ayatollah. They're hearing the Iranian regime. But the people scream as loud as they can, but it seems to go into a void because their words can never get out of Iran because Iran censors all media that comes out of Iran and all media that goes into Iran. And you have these Persian people that are being held in captivity, being held in slavery by this Ayatollah and this Iranian regime of Islamic Republic that is anti-Persian, doesn't respect Persia, doesn't respect the Persian roots of Persia, doesn't respect Cyrus. The Persian people that are in Iran, not Arabic, not Muslim, don't even speak Arabic. They speak Farsi, which is Persian. They are completely disrespected, and the Islamic Republic thinks that it will have its Persian slaves for life, and that's what it really is. The Persian people, who are less than 20% Muslim, in fact, I don't know if you know this or not, but the fastest growing religion in Iran right now is actually Christianity. Christianity is the fastest growing religion in Iran and has been for the last couple of decades. There's actually millions of Christians in Iran. Millions. That is no over-exaggeration. But because of the radical Islamic Republic, Christianity is illegal in Iran, and if they find out you're a Christian, they'll murder you in the streets, as they do their protesters. So they don't have any churches that are outrightly spoken, like we do in the United States of America, non-profit, 301c, non-taxable, non-profit charity organization, and yeah. And we're so happy in America because we have our nonprofit 301c status, and we get our we get a little bit upset in our panties in the wad when we think that they might take away our tax exempt status, because what could a church do if we don't have taxes? What would we ever do if they take away our tax exempt status? And then they they compromise or water down the Bible because they don't want to get their tax exempt status taken from them. It's a little bit different over there in Iran, where you'll be beheaded if they find out that you're a pastor. So the Christians in Iran, who are certainly not worried about a 301c nonprofit tax exempt status, and are a lot more worried about the fact that that while they're taking them away, that they have time to preach to the guards that are about to slit their throats so that they can teach the gospel to them before they die. The fastest growing church in the world, actually, the fastest growing Christian church in the world, actually, is in Iran. The second fastest is in China. Would you believe it? Millions of people, millions of Christians in Iran, and converting at a higher rate than any other religion in the entire world. Even the Iranian government recognizes that. They despise it. And they will not talk about it, and they don't want the world to know because it's embarrassing. It's humiliating for them to admit that Christianity is dominating Persian culture and growing at such a fast rate. Actually, I'll tell you this. There were just as proof of that, there were 70,000 mosques inside of Iran. 70,000 as a result of Islam, right? 50,000 of them have been shut down. 50 of the 70,000 mosques have been shut down because of a lack of attendance, because there was that small minority of Muslims in the country. Over 2/3 of all the mosques in Iran have been shut down. Not now, not during the protests and everything going on, but over the last 10 years, 50,000 mosques have shut down. Which is, so because of a lack of attendance, because nobody's Muslim. But Christianity's grown and continues to grow. And now all of this is coming to the forefront, which is where you're at right now with the Iranian Revolution, right? So this is what Persians inside of Iran want the world to know. We are not an Islamic republic. We do not support Islam or radical Islam. We don't even believe in Islam. Less than 1/4 of our population is Muslim. In fact, the Christian population in Iran is higher than the Muslim population. Would you believe it? And so, all of this is happening right now as we speak. Right? That's the number one important thing that you need to understand right now. Persians are not Arabs. Islam promotes Arabic supremacy. That doesn't help Persians. Persians aren't Arabs. They don't speak Arabic. They're not Muslim. They speak Farsi. They speak Persian. They remember King Cyrus, who was a friend of the Jews. Before 1979, Persia was a friend of Israel and the United States of America. And the Persians today inside of Iran are friends of Israel and the United States, and are actually celebrating Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump, because they say if it wasn't for Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump, we wouldn't have even gotten as far as we have with these rebels and this rioting that's going on inside of Iran right now to overthrow the Ayatollah and the Islamic Republic. This time is different because this time it's going to happen. We are finally about to see the death of radical Islamic terrorism dominating in Iran. The Persian people will be free. The Ayatollah is coming down. And for the first time in 47 years, under the 47th president, Islam will die in Iran. Thank God, right? Our Persian brothers and sisters in Iran will finally be free. I actually knew a guy from Iran. That's a whole nother story. I will probably actually tell you that story. And he was a Christian, by the way, and it was crazy. He almost died in Iran. And so all of this is happening in Iran right now. I love the Persian people because I understand that the Persian people have been held in bondage. The Persian people don't want Islam. They've cried out But the world doesn't hear them because the Islamic Republic hides them. And the Islamic Republic tries to make everybody think that they're all really a bunch of Muslims. They're in consensus with us. That's what it is. And then they escape Iran. And people with the highest IQs are actually encouraged to leave Iran because Iran doesn't want people with the highest IQs in that country because those people are more likely to create a revolution. And then they go to Europe or America, wherever, they try to tell the world, this is what's really going on in Iran. This is what's really going on. The Persians are not Muslim, and they do not see the world this way. They're totally different. And then the world says, well, we all thought you were a bunch of radical Islamic terrorists that want to nuke Israel off the face of the map. Aren't you a bunch of jihadists over there? They're all wearing burqas and everything, because in Iran, if a woman's hair gets shown, she gets shot to death with an AK-47 in the streets. And then they're like, oh, no, that's not us. It's just that we don't want to be shot to death in the street, so we have to wear a burqa. And then when they try to spread the message of what the Persians and the Iranians really think and what it's like to actually live under an oppressive Islamic regime, the left wing calls them a bunch of Islamophobes and helps perpetuate the bondage and oppression of 100 million Persians and countless millions of more in oppressive Islamic regimes throughout the Middle East and throughout the world. Because the left wing doesn't care about anybody. The left wing doesn't care about anyone. The Islamic regime doesn't give a damn, literally, about anybody in the Middle East. They'd rather preach a damned religion, Islam. Right? And so, what you also have to understand is now the Persian people, for the first time ever, are their voices being heard on a global level. For the first time ever, people are starting to wake up to the fact, wait, I think the Persians don't like Iran. I think the Persians and the Iranian government, by Iran I mean the Islamic Republic, I think that they don't get along with the Islamic Republic. I think they don't like them. That's right. Because during these protests, the Persians are burning mosques down in the streets because they're saying, we don't want Islam. It's not just a rebellion of the current government. And let me tell you a secret too. The left-wing mainstream news media is trying to paint this as the people are upset about inflation or their economical problems. No, it has nothing to do with economics. This is not an economic inflation riot. This is a we don't want the Islamic Caliphate or Islam anymore riot. We're burning the mosques down because less than 20% of us are even Muslim. We never supported Islam in the first place. We're not Arabs. We don't believe in Arabic supremacy. We don't speak Arabic. We speak Farsi. We're Persian. We came from King Cyrus, who helped the Jews. We were friends with America and the Jews before 1979. We were taken over by USSR, communistic and Arabic Islamic regimes that stole our country. We've tried to do a protest on this every couple of years since it started, and we've been trying to break out of this for years. We don't want this. We're not Muslims. The fastest growing religion here is Christianity. We're not Muslims. We want to be set free, and we don't want to be ostracized from the world anymore. We don't want to be radical Islamic Republic, and we're tired of seeing of our women and children being raped and murdered in the streets and being shot to death because you can't see their hair. We want to be set free from this nonsense. It's not because of economy or because of inflation. That's just a sparker to give us another reason to say enough is enough. That's what it really is. The left wing doesn't want you to know that. The Democrats don't want you to know that because the Democrats are mad that the Persians are Islamophobic. And they're mad that the Persians recognize Donald Trump as helping Persia get free from the Islamic regime. And they're mad that the Persians recognize Bibi Netanyahu in Israel for helping them get free from the radical Islamic regime. So they don't want you to know that. Because the Democrats, they hate Persians. They hate everybody that does not perpetuate communism and Islam and tyranny. The Democrat Party, the party of the demonic rats, the demon-crat party, the party of the jackass, who loves the Hispanic people from all Hispanic countries so much they're so oppressed over there, bring them over here so they could be set free from the narco state. And then when they get set free from the narco state of Venezuela through Maduro and Trump, all of a sudden, send the dictator back. Don't let the Venezuelans have their country. Continue the narco state, just so we can keep bringing them here, so we can keep winning elections, because we don't give a damn, literally, about the people inside of Venezuela. We'd rather see them all damned than for them to be set free and change our narrative. And the same for the Persians in Iran. So it's not an Islamic revolt. It's an economic revolt. It's an inflation revolt. That's what it is. Meanwhile, simultaneously, while that's going on, you also have to understand that's the core basis of everything that's going on right now. That's what's really going on. In fact, I would encourage you, there's this woman, she's from Iran, she's an Iranian, and her name is, on Facebook and on other platforms, her name is Goldie Gamari. I would encourage you to look her up. She's really good. She's an Iranian, a Persian, who came from Iran, the oppressive Islamic Republic, and she basically tells you everything I just told you. And she's trying to explain to the world that Persians do not support the radical Islamic Republic, that this revolution is against radical Islam, and that the Persian people want to be free and Iran wants to be free. And she goes into the utmost details of Persian history, Persian culture, and everything, because she's Iranian. She's a Persian. She got out of Iran, and she's trying to tell the world, and has been for a long time. But now, because of everything going on, people are starting to listen to her a lot more. She's really good. You need to look her up. She could go into detail for hours and hours and hours like nobody else can, because that's her world, that's her culture, that's her people. And her name is Goldie Gamari. I think I pronounced that correct. I watch her all the time. But it's spelled Goldie. That's the first name. Goldie space. Second is Ghamari. Once again, that's Ghamari. I encourage you to look her up. She's excellent. And if there was anything that you needed to know, if you have any question at all about Iran, Persia, Islam, the history between the two, or anything that's going on in that country that has been going on for the last 47 years, all of Persian history for thousands of years going on right now, and what this revolution means and where it's going, anything to that of the utmost detail, I guarantee you that she can give you an answer. And she's probably already talked about it somewhere on her platform, somewhere in the playlist of her videos and everything, has probably already talked about it. She's really good. She's the one that does these videos where the video will come up and she'll say, Iranian here, and here's a pro tip for anybody that's not from the Middle East. And then goes on to explain, oh yeah, by the way, the Persians are not Muslim. They're actually less than 20% of Iran is Islamic, actually. And they actually don't hate the Jews, and they actually don't hate America. And actually, the left wing keeps calling us all a bunch of Islamophobics because we're trying to stop the Iranian oppression. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Right? An actual Iranian. Okay? Not some crazy whack job, far left liberal that's been born and raised in the United States of America that wants to tell the rest of us of how Islamic republics actually work inside of Iran and how Islamophobic everyone is because they don't want to see 13-year-olds molested and then stoned in the streets for being murdered and murdered for being molested by a fully grown man, right? Now, while all of that's going on too, here's some interesting updates about this Iranian revolution, right? Not only are mosques being burned down to the ground, so 100 million people. It's in 319 different cities in Iran are now protesting in 31 provinces. That's every province in Iran. 319 cities across all 31 provinces. So there's literally nowhere in the entire nation that is not being protested right now. It's in the entire nation. Mosques are being burned down everywhere. Millions of people are protesting, and it's only getting bigger and bigger every single day because it's now or never. Like she said, it's now or never. It's now or bust. But I want to tell you a little secret, my friend. I promise you there ain't no bust on this one. There ain't no never on this one. It's now or now. That's the end of the answer. It is now, and it is now. There ain't no never. There ain't no bust. I promise you. The Iranian regime will be overturned finally. Praise the Lord Jesus Christ. Thank God Jehovah in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, here's some interesting updates that you need to know while all this is happening right now, right? Some of this I'm pretty sure you already know, but maybe not. It's really interesting. Okay. First of all, I'm sure you know that Donald Trump came out and Donald Trump said that he might help the Iranian protesters if things continue. But he warned Iran not to murder protesters. You better not start killing those protesters or we're coming for you. Okay? Well, Iran, because in an act of defiance and rebellion, decided to start murdering protesters, and they shut out the internet and did a blackout across all of Iran because they don't want the world to see how successful the Iranian rebellion is going. And then they didn't want to see the murder of protesters. They started to murder protesters, and then they killed 500 initially. 500 were killed, the initial estimates, and then it came out that it was 1,000, and then it came out that it was 2,000, and then 10,000, and now, last time I checked, it's probably more now, we're up to 20,000 protesters that have been murdered. They've arrested thousands more. Now they're beginning to do public executions and hanging them in the streets. So Donald Trump got pissed off about that. And while Donald Trump was pissed off about that, Bibi Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, has recently came out, and he told Mike Huckabee, the ambassador to America and Israel, that even if America doesn't do anything in Iran, that no matter what anyone says, that Bibi Netanyahu and Israel will strike Iran, and they are going to interfere no matter what happens. So that's some good news. Then, after they started killing the protesters, Donald Trump came out and he said, okay, y'all made a mistake. And then he went on True Social and said, Iranians, keep protesting, keep going, keep fighting, keep going hard. We're gonna come, and America's gonna interfere in this, and I promise you that help is on the way. That's what he said. Recently, now he's starting off slowly, right? This is how it starts off. Slowly, starts off with some economical pressure. He's added a 25% tariff to any and all countries that trade with Iran. We'll have a 25% tariff on them if they try to trade with the United States of America. That's a 25% added tariff. So if they already have a 25% tariff with the U.S., now they have a 50% tariff. That's what that means. Basically what that means, a tariff, because like a lot of people still don't even know what tariffs are, which is really interesting to me, but a tariff is basically a tax on traded goods. So like if you want to ship 100 phones over here and you want to sell them each phone for $1,000, right? Well, then a 25% tariff says that you have to give me $250 for every $1,000 you sell, right? That's what a tariff is. It's a 25% tax on everything. So if you already have a 25, now it's 50. So now you have to give me 500 for every 1,000, right? So it really starts to hit people's pocketbook, and then they start to do what you want them to do, what they get told, because they don't want to fight the number one economy in the world, the United States of America. And so that's where it starts. It'll probably go higher from then, but as most people predict, it's probably eventually going to turn into some sort of military action, because really you don't see how it can't, right? Israel and America will join forces. They're gonna help. They're gonna do some kind of military attack and overturn the Ayatollah finally. So it'll start off as this economical pressure. Then, after that happened, Iran has threatened to assassinate Donald Trump. They've done that before, but now they outspokenly, the leader of Iran said, what a imbecile, right? This guy's a complete idiot. He goes all over the world and he says, he goes all over there and he says, he tweets, everything's fine in Iran. The situation's under control. Everything's calming out. It's like, no, it's not. It's crazier than it's ever been. He just doesn't want the world to see him sweat, because he's backed up against the wall and he knows he is. And any day now, and a bunch of Iranian protesters actually stole one of his colonels, one of the Iranian colonels in the military, and they beat him to death in the streets. And any day now, if they find the Ayatollah, he's going to be Gaddafi'd. He's going to be dragged in the streets and beat to death. They're going to murder him on live TV and upload it to social media for the whole world to see as an example. And he knows that too, which is why one of his escape plans is probably to go to Russia. Or if he doesn't go to Russia, then they're going to murder him in the streets. We'll see what happens. But now he's trying to convince everybody everything's fine. So he threatens to assassinate Donald Trump. And he actually said out of his own mouth, this time we won't miss. That's what he said. And then the Iranian airspace got shut down here recently, and there's no planes flying over Iran. Iran shut down their own airspace because they want to know whether or not somebody's coming overhead with a B-2 bomber, right? Like when we bombed those nuclear sites, which the Persian people supported. In fact, actually, there was graffiti all throughout the streets of Iran that said, Israel, keep bombing them. Iranians are with you. America, thank you for bombing those nuclear sites. We, the Iranian people, the Persians, we support you. Yeah, we love the Persians so much, which is why we're going to help them destroy the Ayatollah. And it helps everybody. Not only do the Persians get set free, which is first and foremost the most important thing, but on top of that, now you don't have to worry about the number one state sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East anymore. Now that severely cuts the funding off of Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, and all these radical Islamic terrorist organizations, because they're getting all their money from Iran, which, by the way, was also being laundered to them by Barack Hussein Obama, the Muslim, because when they did the Iranian nuclear deal, they were giving billions of dollars to Iran, and Iran would just take that money and turn it around and send it right back to radical terrorist organizations, and that's how ISIS got created. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely crazy. These people need to be held. They need to be arrested, held for treason. But removing the Iranian regime not only sets the Persians free from that nonsense, not only restores them to their original history of Farsi, not Arabic, Persian, not Arabic, not Islamic, bring back the freedom for Persians, and it also restores the relationship between Israel and the United States of America, destroys radical Islamic terrorism, and stops this number one state sponsor of terrorism, removes a giant Islamic problem in the Middle East, but also adds a giant friend in the Middle East. And that helps the entire world in their fight. That helps Europe, that helps America, that helps the whole world dealing with radical Islamic terrorism. In fact, actually, if you don't know, well, they shut down their airspace, Iran did, and then now Trump says, well, maybe we don't attack, I don't know. But Trump's not saying that because they're not going to attack. He's not saying that because he's worried about them saying they're going to assassinate him or any of this nonsense. Or because they shut down their airspace. Trump is a master at being unpredictable. So he'll say something, and then the next week he'll say something else, and the next week he says something else, and he goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth because he's kicking up a lot of dust. He's creating a fog of war, essentially, that you can't see through, so that they're not sure, the enemies are not sure if you're going to go this direction or that direction or what direction you're going to go. And then in the middle of the night when no one's paying attention, you break in and kidnap the president of Venezuela. And so they've threatened that. And I'm telling you, Donald Trump right now, I'm telling you, Donald Trump, you need to watch the Secret Service. You need to watch the Secret Service. They are not to be trusted, okay? And I'm not saying it's the whole Secret Service at all. Not at all. There's plenty of great people in the Secret Service. They're awesome. They're wonderful. They're amazing people. The Secret Service has always been a good thing. But right now, in current American politics, with how crazy it's gotten and the assassination attempts that have been on Donald Trump's life before, and Iran saying, we got assassinated, we got to go get Trump. You need to watch the Secret Service, okay? Because whether it's found out now or it's found out later, I'm telling you, there's some Secret Service agents in there that are bought and paid off for, okay? And they have connections to Iran, okay? And the whole world's going to see it, okay? Because it's crazy. It needs to be understood. And it's no coincidence that right at this exact same time, when all of this is going on, and then this guy goes to J.D. Vance's house and tries to shoot it up, but they weren't home. And now all of a sudden, James O'Keefe, the incorruptible, great, amazing James O'Keefe, the warrior James O'Keefe, releases the video here recently, before Iran even said that they were going to try to assassinate Trump, which is interesting. So you think maybe it's God trying to show you that something's up with that Secret Service right before Iran decides to talk about trying to assassinate Donald Trump, and releases that video about that Secret Service agent who was giving random information and releasing press coverage of random information to a random stranger about J.D. Vance's location, where he's going to be at his home in Ohio for the next 5 days, and then he's going to be in Florida, and then doxing them, essentially, and giving them pictures of the presidential convoy and send it to them, and letting them know routes that they go down and paths that they had taken, which can be taken by anyone in the world, and then turned into a essential blueprint for how they decide they're going to strike somebody. From this random Secret Service agent who also said that he voted for Biden, and also said that he's against the ICE protests, and he's against ICE, and also said that, and also he's an immigrant. He's not a born and raised in America. You know, I kind of sort of feel like, and I don't care what anybody thinks, whether they want to call this racist or whatever they want to call it. If the president of the United States of America has to be born inside of the United States of America, born and raised, then I kind of feel like anyone that's around them, Secret Service members, anybody else like that, should have to be born and raised in America as well. I firmly believe that. I firmly feel that. There should be no question about your loyalty to this country for you to be able to be that close to the President of the United States on a 24/7 access basis. I'm pretty sure that feels like common sense to me. And so this guy was an immigrant who became a citizen in 2018 and had only been a citizen for 2 years before he was invited to the Secret Service. Why are there American citizens that were born and raised here that have more loyalty to the United States of America than anybody alive, that are constantly overlooked for being on the Secret Service detail, and an immigrant who's only been a citizen for 2 years is just automatically put on the Secret Service detail? He was hired by Biden, of course. He's a stayover from Biden, so you really got to watch that. Anybody that was hired by Biden in any situation or field needs to be watched. They need to be watched, because you don't even know maybe if they should. I don't know. Maybe I would fire all of them. I don't trust anybody that was put in there by Biden, because every single one of them, Biden's just doing what he was told to do. He's just a puppet to fuel as much deep state tentacles into everything you could find as humanly possible. That's all he is. And so I would really watch the Secret Service if I was Donald Trump, and I was the good members of the Secret Service, and I was loyal. If I was really trying to help the United States of America and Trump and try to stop Iran, I would pay attention to the Secret Service, and not just them, others as well. So they're threatening to assassinate Donald Trump again. And now they've since reopened their airspace. And that's only because they think that Trump and Bibi Netanyahu said, well, we're not going to attack yet. But it's the fog of war. You got to say that stuff. You got to be unpredictable. So that's where we are right now, right, with the whole Iranian revolution that's going on. On top of that, let's see. There was something else I was going to say. I know what it is. Okay. I'll say that and I'll say this and then I'll say a couple more things. Okay. So, on top of all that as well, I had to write some of it down just to make sure I didn't forget because there's so much going on. There's so much information there. So, like, on top of that, Palestine, right? Everybody's talking about Palestine. Oh, Palestine this and Palestine that and Palestine. And you got all these Palestinian protesters that are shouting free Palestine in the streets, right? And yet they went and they talked to them and they talked to the Palestinians and they said, so you're all about free Palestine, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, we're all about free Palestine. And then they said, they went up to these Palestinian protesters and they said, how many people have been murdered inside of Iran? How many protesters were killed inside of Iran here recently? And they said, I don't know. Right? They were talking to a Palestinian woman that was at the Palestinian Free Palestine riots in Palestine. And they said, how many protesters were killed in Iran today during the Free Iran riots? And then she said, this is what she said. These are her exact words. All on videotape. She said, are those people saying free Palestine? Is it for Palestine? And then he said, no, I don't know if you realize this or not, pretty big thing, but the Persian people are rebelling against the Islamic Republic in Iran, and people are being murdered every day. It's one of the biggest, if not the biggest story in the entire world right now. And then she said, oh, well, if they're not talking about Iran, or if they're not talking about Palestinians, then F them. I don't care about them. Screw them. Screw Iran. Free Palestine. That's what she said. She's a Palestinian. Of course it is. Because the free Palestinians don't care about free in Iran. Why? Because they don't like the Persians. Why? Because Palestine is Muslim. Because they're more loyal to the Islamic Republic. They don't care about Iranians and Persians being free. They just want to promote Islam. They're mad. They don't want them to be free because they want the 100 million people to be oppressed so that they can continue their radical Islamic regime. Just like the president, just like the Ayatollah of Iran, who literally on paper said, it doesn't matter if Iran falls. Direct quote, it doesn't matter if Iran falls. Just as long as Islam doesn't fall. We'll sacrifice Iran for Islam. That's what he said. And that's why the Persians hate him. Because you're not Persian. You're not pro-Cyrus. You're not a son of Cyrus. You're not pro-Persian people. You're not pro-Persian. You're not a member of us. You don't care about us. You would rather have us fall to keep Islam alive? Islam be damned. We want Persia to be alive. That's what the Persians say. And the Persians with their pride are rising up. The lion of Persia is rising up. And I'm with you, my brothers and sisters in Iran. And my brothers and sisters in Persia. You have no idea how much that I'm with you, okay? I support you. We support you. The Jews support you. Israel supports you. PB supports you. Trump supports you. The Americans support you. The Christians support you. We love you with all of our heart. Okay? We know. Listen, let me explain something to you. My Persian brothers and sisters who are in Iran and who are rioting and who are fighting and who are dying, who are standing up for what's right and standing for civil rights, human rights, women's rights, not to be shot to death in the streets for seeing their hair, standing up for people's rights, for human civilization rights. for everyone's rights, for freedom of religion. Let me tell you what my friends in Persia, we, the real people, right? The people of the United States of America, okay? The real people, the real Christians, the real Jews, the real Israelis, the real Americans, and many Europeans as well, the majority. We understand, okay, that you, the Persian people, you were not an enemy to the West before the Islamic Iranian regime. We understand the history of King Cyrus, the Persian people, the history of Farsi, not Arabic, Persian, not Arabic. We understand the history of you being taken over by an Islamic republic. We understand the protests that have happened every few years for decades. We understand that you want to be free. We understand that you don't represent the Islamic regime and that radical Islam doesn't represent you. We despise the Ayatollah and the Islamic Republic and the Iranian nuclear program. We hate it with all of our heart, but we don't hate you. We hate the government like you. We despise the same things that you despise, and we love the same things that you love. And we want to see nothing more than peace and tranquility and allyship and friendship between Iran and the Persian people and the United States of America and Israel and Christians and Jews. We want nothing more than our people to be united in friendship once again, as the Persian people do as well. We know you're not the radical Ayatollah. We know that you're not the jihadists that are going around blowing everything up and saying Allah Akbar and wanting to murder the whole world to promote your agenda. We know that. And we understand, we hear your cries. We really do. And we understand the pain inside of the Persian people. And we understand what it's like as an American and as a Christian and as people that support Bibi Netanyahu in Israel and the Jewish people. We know what it's like to be accused constantly of terrorism and hatred and bigotry and wanting to destroy the entire world, to quote unquote colonize and promote your own ideas and your own visions, when really what you want is freedom and liberty and justice for all, right? We understand what that's like in the modern world, right? America and Israel, Bibi and Trump, and people that support Bibi and Trump, like myself, Christians and Jews and various other people that support Bibi and Trump, because we don't support radical Islam and communistic dictatorship nonsense. We are constantly accused of being bigots that want to kill everybody and being the most horrible people on the planet. So we understand what it's like to be falsely misrepresented and have our ideologies, our beliefs, and our front foremen and our faces misrepresented across all TV all over the whole world for standing up for what we actually believe and being lied about. We understand that, which is why we understand the Persians and the same exact thing happening to them, being falsely accused of being jihads under one lying swoop, and then under the next by the left wing, and Democrats being accused of being Islamophobics because the left wing doesn't care about 90 million Persian people being doesn't care about 90 million Persian people being oppressed and needing to be set free. So we're with you, and we're going to fight with you. We're going to fight for you. We're going to overthrow the Ayatollah. Once again, Persia will rise, the Persians will rise, the lion will rise, and Persia said, enough is enough, and the Persians said, we are Persia, we were one of the greatest empires in the history of all of mankind, the greatest empire on the face of the planet at one time. We're the sons of Cyrus, and our end is not to be remembered as a bunch of slaves that got taken over by some pathetic Islamic regime that went and tried to kill and murder our people and tells the world that they dominated Persia. No, that's not how this is going to end. Our people and our rules and our laws and our culture and our history being destroyed. No. What's going to happen is we, the Persians, are going to be remembered as Persia, who could not bow down and could not be taken over and could not be conquered by anybody because we're Persia. Right? That's the pride of the Persians. Celebrate it. Respect it. I love it. So let the lion in Persia reign, and let it rise, and let it destroy the Islamic Republic. Praise Yeshua. And so it shall. And this is another interesting update on top of that as well. All right? And we don't trust Qatar, and we don't trust, because a lot of people are like, oh, Qatar, they're the mediator between these two groups. No, they're not. Just like she said, they're the world's richest terrorist Airbnb. That's what they are. They hide behind all of that nonsense. They are as radical Islamic as you could possibly be. It's just a front. Anyone outside of the Middle East says, oh, they're trying to be the mediator. Everybody inside the Middle East says, they're a terrorist organization. We all know it too. It's no surprise. And this is what I wanted to say as well. This is the update I wanted to give as well, on top of that, okay? The Shah, which was the monarch and the king of Iran, who was ousted and fled to the United States of America. He has a son. His son is still alive, the Prince Shah. Many of the Persians, the people I read, are calling for Prince Shah to come back. Their Shah to come back. Well, recently, and he's all over Twitter tweeting, and he was talking about how, and everything he says is in Farsi, Persian, not Arabic, because he's talking to the people of Persia. This is what we're going to do when Iran gets set free from the Islamic Caliphate. Well, now recently he released a message in English because he was specifically talking to all non-Persians. He was talking to us, talking to me, talking to the world, talking to Christians, Jews, Americans, Trump, Bibi, the whole world, Europe, everybody. And this is what he said. This is what he promises to do as he becomes the Shah of Iran. Shall he become the leader of Iran and the monarch is restored and he'll be the Shah of Iran, the true heir to the Shah, and they get rid of the Islamic Republic? This is what he has promised will happen in Iran once the Islamic Republic falls. Number one, they will reject Sharia law. This is his words. And you can find this tweet on Twitter. You can find this video. He said the whole thing in English. We will reject Sharia law, and there will no longer be a radical Islamic Sharia law in place over Iran. We'll get rid of that whole thing. The jihadis and the burqas and all of it. That'll go away. Number two, we will immediately end the Iranian nuclear program and will stop trying to enrich uranium to create a nuclear bomb. Okay, that's a big one. Number three, we will stabilize Iran, and we will help stabilize the Middle East to no longer be a chaotic place full of constant chaos and nonsense all the time that the whole world has to look at all the time, and because they're afraid they're going to get attacked. Where we'll stabilize Iran and help stabilize the Middle East. Number four, we will help global security across the planet, and will work to help on behalf of international security instead of a threat to national and international security. Number five, we will normalize U.S. allied relationships, normalize relationships with the United States of America, and we will become an ally to the United States of America, just like pre-1979 Iran. Number 6. Number 6, we will help fight radical Islamic terrorism throughout the world and the Middle East. We will, not only will Iran no longer sponsor state terrorism, but we will help fight it and we will destroy it at every avenue throughout the Middle East and the world. And last and definitely not least, we will recognize Israel as the only Jewish state in the Middle East and the world, and we will recognize them as a Jewish state, and we will be an ally to Israel as well. Those are the big promises that were promised by the Prince Shah coming in, who will most likely be, it makes sense to me, the leader of Iran after the Islamic Republic falls. That would be great. So yeah, man, that's everything that's going on inside the Middle East. That's going on right now. Actually, hold on a second. Well, that's everything that's going on in the Middle East right now. So you need to watch Iran, and we stand up for the Persian people, and we stand by the Persians. We love you, Persians. We stand by you. We're fighting with you. We're fighting for you. We will destroy the Ayatollah. Our fight is your fight, and our blood is your blood, and your sweat is our sweat, and our tears are your tears, and we cry as we see the Persian people running throughout the streets and burning down the old Iranian flag and holding up, I call it the old one now, but it's the new one, the Muslim Iranian flag, and holding up the old and the new actual Iranian flag with the lion and the sun on it, and replacing it on the embassies and burning down the mosques and the people chanting in the streets. And it brings tears to our eyes because we are with you, the Persian people, in truth and in spirit. I feel my spirit is in Iran with the Persian people, and I'm marching in the streets with them in the spirit, fighting and screaming and crying out for truth, righteousness, and justice. But not tears of fear. Absolutely not. Tears of joy, tears of righteous indignation and righteous revolutionary rebellion. We will destroy and passionately destroy all that is wicked and evil, that has oppressed the Persians and so many other groups of people for so long. And Iran will be free, and Persia will reign again as a friend to the Jews, to Israel, to the Christians, and to the United States of America. That's what we declare. That's what we believe. So it shall be. And we declare, believe, and receive all these things by grace through faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. That's it. Actually, you know what? That's not it. I thought that was going to be it, but I had to check how long this has been going and make sure I still had like space and time on my memory on my phone, on my SD card, so that I didn't get caught off in the middle of talking, because I wasn't sure how long I've been filming. I felt like I've been talking for a while. I had to go and check, and it said, "Oh, well, it's been like an hour and 22 minutes." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. So I got time then. I can say the rest of everything." That's everything that I was going to say on the Iranian war and the revolution, everything that's going on in Iran. And I'm telling you, you need to go look up this woman. She's awesome. She's an awesome woman. She's great. She's from Iran. She's awesome. And she will explain all of this in detail. She's been live streaming. She's amazing. And she's been on the news as well. She's been fighting for the Persians and Iran for a long time. She's amazing. She's been live streaming every single night of this Iranian revolution. You need to go watch those live streams. They're really good. She really breaks it down and can explain absolutely everything that's going on. Watching in real time. We're watching the most historical thing in Middle Eastern history, and this is going to be like forever. And it's such an honor for me to find like her and to be able to watch, because I watched the live streams with her about the Iranian Revolution and stand by Iran every step of the way in this constant. They're stand by Persia, the Persians, and real Iran against the Islamic regime every single step of the way in this fight for freedom, righteousness, truth, and justice for all. And her name, and I think I'm pronouncing it right. It's Goldie Gamari. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. But it's spelled Goldie space Ghamari. You need to go look her up. Facebook, YouTube, everything. And you just go through there and you'll see what's going on. She talks about everything. If you really want to know what's going on inside Iran, you really want to know what's going on inside of the Persians and the Persian people and what they really think and what they really feel and what they really believe. You don't want to be distracted by the talking points of the mainstream news media and everything they lie about all the time and never knowing what's actually a fact and what's really going on and all their stupid Western takes on it. If you want to get the real inside news scoop, news story from someone that's in the middle of it, that's where you need to go. She will show you. No being deceived by the mainstream news media there, because people from the West, you're not from the East. You know what I mean? Love you, but people from the West, you're not from the Middle East. So you don't know everything that you assume that you know about the Middle East. It's just the way it works. No different than people that aren't from America don't really understand how it works over here either. That's just the way it works. So that's why, I listen to her and Persians and what's really going on in the Middle East. And I'm right there in the middle of the revolution with them. And then I listen to I don't even watch mainstream news media. But you'll walk by or something and you'll see like CNN or Fox News or somebody at just a TV that's on randomly somewhere. Some random business keeps their TVs on or something. And then you hear the headlines and you're listening, you're rolling your eyes at these people well, let's hear their take on Iran and what's going on in the Persians. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's hear what they have to say. Oh, it's talking about a whole bunch of stupid nonsense. Shut up. And then, they try to act like they control it, like they're the ones that are on the outside looking in and they're so much more important and powerful than it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're a bunch of idiots. You're a bunch of idiots sitting inside of a room talking to yourself because nobody's listening to you. And you're just talking about absolutely nothing. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares. And you try to project this idea, and just because you're on a TV screen, right, you subliminally train the idiots, the random idiots that are watching into thinking that you have some sort of power or authority over the subject, that you have some sort of I'm on the outside looking in and what I say is actually affecting world events, and it's not. No, it's the people inside of Iran and Persia that are rioting, that are affecting world events. It's the normal, everyday people that are changing world history, not the news media. Okay? And that's the thing. You watch TV too much, you watch the news media too much, you develop this illusion for the real world versus a couple of people that are watching it happen and just put their face alongside it while it's happening and tell you what they think. What they think is irrelevant. What's actually happening is what's actually happening. Yeah. And I'm not saying everybody in the news media is bad or that they all have terrible takes, but I'm just saying 70% of the time it's stupid. Even people that are, Republican or pro-Trump or GOP or whatever, some of their takes are dumb as well because they just don't understand the Middle East. You live inside this bubble in New York City or LA or wherever it is, and then you have this idea that you understand everything that's going on there. It's just kind of asinine, honestly. Unless you study it and you talk to people that have been there, that have experienced it, you don't, it's just kind of stupid, really. And like Rand Paul. Rand Paul is acting like a complete idiot. Bro, what are you talking about? What are you even talking about? It's blah, blah, blah. No. That's a Western take. You have a Western mind, a Western frame of view on the subject. And that's why you say the most asinine comments I've ever heard when it comes to what's going on in Iran. And when you talk about, I don't think we should help strike Iran because it'll help the people. It'll cause the people in Iran to start standing up for the Islamic Caliphate and go against America for its. That is the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I guarantee you, I promise you, Rand Paul, that if people ever needed more proof to know that you have no idea what's going on in the Middle East, you have no idea what's going on in Persia, you're completely out of touch with the way that the Persian people feel about the Islamic Iranian regime in Iran and have felt for 50 years. If there was any more proof you were out of touch, it's that stupid asinine comment that you just said and just made right now. I guarantee you that the Persian people, you're so out of touch. The Persian people, I guarantee you that the Persian people are not going to all of a sudden overnight start trying to defend the Islamic Caliphate because it got attacked by America. You're an idiot. You remember that we bombed them 3 times already, right? And did the Persians turn? No, they're in the streets with Jewish and American flags. You are so out of touch, so asininely out of touch with Iran and the Persian people and what's going on in that country, that you spread this absolutely gob of nonsense from a Western mind point of view, a Western take. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, in the past, no. See, that's the proof. You don't understand the Middle East. In the past, with other Muslim countries, that's the problem. In the past, with other Muslim countries where it was Muslims versus Muslims, those other Muslims might turn against you because they're still Muslims. But Iran is not a Muslim country. They're not even Arabic. They're Persian. They speak Persian. They're less than 20% Arabic. They hate Islam. They despise Islam. And they're not going to say, oh no, we're under attack by the U.S., so now we're going to... They hate Islam. If you understand how deeply rooted the hate was inside of the Persian people for the Islamic Caliphate, you would never make such an asinine statement. It's a complete asinine statement. You just can't even put it into words. But but Rand Paul is not going to listen to nobody. Who cares what he thinks? He's an idiot. He was good with Anthony Fauci, and now he's turned into an idiot. He's turned into a dummy. The truth is that Rand Paul can't pick a side, and then he tries to grandstand and act like, I'm the senator who doesn't get controlled by the mainstream political narrative, and I don't fall to the left or the right because I'm the independent one, and blah, 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 blah. And really, it's almost coming off like a right-wing version of Cory Booker, actually. Cory Booker's a complete clown. He's the biggest fool I've ever seen in my life. Spartacus sits there, and I've never seen anybody sit there and I mean, so theatrical. He's an actor. He looks like he's on Broadway or something. I've never seen anything like that. Generically hilarious. Never seen anything like it. Where the camera's not on him and he's just sitting there acting normal like this. And then the camera shines on him and he sits there for 15 seconds because he doesn't know it's looking at him. And then he looks up and he sees the camera and then he jumps up out of nowhere and he picks his papers up and he throws it up. Ah! I can't believe this is happening. And then looks back at the camera and keeps looking back at it and the people to make sure the camera's still watching him. It's like, buddy, I don't think you knew that camera had been looking at you for 15 seconds before you did that. And now we just caught the fact that you didn't feel that way, that you were doing it for the camera, right? Rand Paul's becoming the right-wing's version of Cory Booker, where it's all grandstanding. I can't believe the Republicans would vote for this, or the Democrats. I'll be the only one that doesn't vote for any of them because I'm the grandstander. I'm the one in the middle. I'm a true libertarian. I'm truly constitutional. Blah 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 blah. Wah 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 wah. And then when it's a serious issue like Persia or some other things, all of a sudden it's nowhere. You're just too scared to vote. You're an actor. You're a Cory Booker actor without the theatrics. That's what Rand Paul is. That's what Rand Paul's turned into. That's why you couldn't win the presidency, by the way. I hate to break it to you. You're never going to be president, and that's why. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Now, I also want you to imagine this. Okay? And this is really a whole other thing in and of itself, but it's not. Well, all that's happening with Iran, and the people want to be free from Islam in Iran, simultaneously, you have NYC's mummy dummy Americans that act like it's no big deal that we just got a Muslim mayor inside of New York City. Like, come on, man. You people are idiots. You see 100 million persons telling you exactly why you don't want a Muslim mayor. And then there's people in this country that are like, what's the big deal about NYC's mummy dummy? You're so stupid. Well, because you don't want your children and your grandchildren to be wearing a burqa and get murdered in the middle of New York City for being raped, do you? That's the reason why. That's why we don't want mummy dummy. New York City mummy dummy, who was inaugurated on New Year's Eve while the clock's turning to 12. And where does he pick his inauguration? Look at this. It's so weird. It's so satanic, demonic. It's almost like a satanic ritual or something. He decides that we're going to host the inauguration ceremony under the ground. He doesn't want to get hosted above the ground. He wants to go under the ground. Why does he want to do that? I don't know. It's kind of weird. Feels kind of strange, doesn't it? He wants to have the ceremony underground. And not only that, but he does it directly in an abandoned subway station. Like, what kind of a weirdo has an inauguration ceremony in an abandoned subway station? So he wants to go underground, like witches and warlocks do. When witches and warlocks and Satanists do a ceremony, they go underground. He wants to go under the ground because he thinks it's closer to hell. And he wants to go directly underneath the city hall in an abandoned subway station. Abandoned, which represents death because nobody's there. And directly underneath City Hall. Directly underneath it. Why is that? I mean, does that not just sound weird right off the bat? Like, just think about it for a second. If anybody in the world said, no, I don't want to have the inauguration in the building, I want to dig a hole underneath it and do it under the building. Doesn't that just sound weird? Before you even start looking at the details, it just sounds weird. Why do you want to do it underground? Underneath the building, it just feels strange, doesn't it? It feels like a satanic or a demonic ritual or something like that. Like when they say that there's things that are under the Vatican or under Mason lodges or under whatever, it just sounds weird. But then you go under City Hall. And I can tell you what it really means. The satanic actual, that's a ritual. And it's no secret that every time a president has an inauguration ceremony on January 20th, that Masons, it's no secret that the Freemasons have written their symbols all into Washington, D.C., right? There's whole documentaries on the History Channel about that. It's pretty obvious. Their blueprint is all over D.C.'s. You look at it from a helicopter and you can see the satanic and Masonic symbols marked at the points throughout D.C., and they do their thing where they always have to make it geographically, just like the Egyptians did with the pyramids. And like all temples do, and like feng shui does, where they think that there's certain spiritual aspects to certain geographical locations, and they make things at just the right angle from each other because it's supposed to be a ritual in and of itself. Right? And that's the reason why Mason lodges are always beside city halls and always beside police stations. I encourage you to go to your local Mason lodge, and then you're going to find out it ain't that far away from your city hall or your police station, is it? Why is that? Very interesting. Or sometimes they'll be directly in between the city hall and the police station. They'll be on the same road Same exact street, but just maybe a mile down the road, but it's always 100% parallel on the exact same street. Why is that? Because it's angular, and they think it has to do with spiritual, geographical, spiritual authorities. That's what they believe. 100%, wholeheartedly. Why do they believe that? Well, I don't know. Why did every ancient religion believe it? They do the same thing in Greek mythology. They did the same thing. The Egyptians did the same thing with the pyramids. That's why the 3 points of the pyramids are lined up perfectly with north, south, east, west, and west. The 4 corners and the tops of the 3 pyramids are lined up perfectly with Orion's belt. It's the same exact thing. Okay, so Dummayor, the Muslim, goes underground and holds that ceremony directly underneath City Hall because he wants to be in alignment with City Hall, but he's underneath it because hell's overtaken City Hall. But not just that, but also because he wants to go to the foundations of City Hall. He wants to go to the very foundations of City Hall, right? The foundations, you can't get to the foundation of City Hall, so go underneath the foundations. You're the foundations of the foundation of City Hall. And once upon a time, the foundations of City Hall in New York City and the world, or the United States of America, was built on the Bible, right? But then 9/11 happens, and the Muslims and the radical jihadists, they see that as a blood sacrifice. They see that as a blood ritual. The sacrificing of 2,000 blood souls to help them take power over a region, right? That's what witches think with human sacrifice and animalistic sacrifice. That's what Muslims think because witchcraft is involved in Islam. And any witch in the world would tell you that. Muslims practice witchcraft in their rituals, whether they realize that or not, but they are. It's a witchcraft. And some do, and some don't. And there's an overlap between the two, and so on and so forth. So they do a sacrifice of 2,000 people's blood to try and get power over a region to Allah, and then they see Dummayor in New York City as being the answer to that 2,000 blood sacrifice, because now he's the mayor over the city where they practice the sacrifice. And then what it was those 2 cities, those 2 buildings were the highest point in New York City. And then they brought them down to where level, to what they call ground zero. So they were spiritually trying to bring it from the top to its lowest point, ground zero. And then they tried to build a mosque on top of ground zero. You remember that? Because they were spiritually trying to say that we're removing the empire from the top to the bottom, and we're going to the foundations and we're reworking it for Islam, for the mosque. They couldn't get that passed. So now you get Dummayor, who they believe they got through the sacrifice of the rituals of 2,000 people. So they go to City Hall, New York City, and go underneath the ground, satanic ritual, and to go to the foundation of City Hall, to the foundations of foundation of what it's built on. And in that foundation, he swears not on a Bible, but on a Quran, because he's saying that the foundations of this city are now, from this day forward, being changed from the Bible to the Quran. So he swears on a Quran, first person ever to swear on a Quran in the inauguration ceremony, and he's doing it on New Year's Eve, as the clock strikes 12 going into the new year. So because witches and warlocks see the times and the seasons as having spiritual significance. So he's spiritually significantly saying, we're changing the foundations of the city under City Hall from Christianity to Islam, from the Bible to the Quran, and we're doing it over the midnight hour because we're going from one year into another. We're going from one season into another, from a Christ season into an Allah season. That's what he's saying. Spiritually and symbolically and metaphorically and figuratively, that's what he's saying. And the witches and the warlocks that were down there in the tunnels with him, and many of them are not Muslim, but they are witches, they are warlocks, they are Satanists, and they work with Islam because they want to promote the same agenda, which is death and murder and destruction, and so on and so forth. Get rid of Christianity and the Jews and Israel and America, and so on and so forth. They were in that tunnel with him, and they were practicing those rituals while he was doing it, and they all recognize it as a satanic, demonic ritual, a witchcraft ritual, to take authority over New York City and over that region. That's exactly what it was. That is exactly what it was. And you could go into the fact that, Allah's connected to Baal, and that's connected to Jezebel in the Bible, and the moons and the witches always have something to do with the moons. In Islam, Allah is the god of the moon, one of the Arabic gods, like I said, which is why they have a crescent moon there. It's all connected, okay? And that's really what it was. So while Islam is falling in Iran, it's going wild crazy in New York City, and that has to be dealt with. Correct? Correct. Okay, so also what you see is, I just wanted to explain that because I think a lot of people missed Mummy Dummy in NYC, that fool in NYC. His days are numbered, though, I'm telling you. I don't think he'll even finish out his term as the mayor. Something's going to happen there. I don't know what it is, but something spiritually is going to happen there. But, and I guess that leads us to our last subject. Speaking of what, because people say that that's a conspiracy or whatever. Well, speaking of conspiracy theorists, Candace Owens. Oh my goodness gracious. I have almost lost, I think Candace is gone. I think she's gone. I think she's gone crazy, bro. I really do. I think that she has completely lost it. And I've defended her, and I've tried to help her, and I tried to stand, and I tried to do, but now, you know what? It's just, Candace is gone, bro. And she's becoming like Fakharan. You remember Fakharan? That racist guy who said that the Jews were behind slavery, and now she's saying the same thing. Now she's trying to convince the entire black community to hate the Jews because the Jews were actually behind slavery. Candace Owens has become the perpetuated victim mentality that she always claimed to speak out against. Candace Owens' entire platform and legacy was built off of convincing the black community not to blame white people for all their problems. She's right about that. BLM is trash, and she's right about that. It's a victim mentality, but now she's just acting like a victim to the Jewish people, and now she's trying to claim that they shouldn't be victims of the white man, which they shouldn't be, but that they should just go ahead and become victims to the Jewish man. That's the real solution, right? Yeah, that's what she says. I mean, it's basically what she's saying, right? That's what she's promoting. And now Candace Owens, not making it up. I want you to hear what I'm about to say to you. And if you haven't heard it, or if you've heard it before, you already know how crazy it is, you know what I'm going to say. Not making it up. Candace Owens now says, this is her newest take on the Charlie Kirk assassination. Candace Owens now believes that Charlie Kirk was a time traveler. She now believes that Charlie Kirk was a time traveler. Not making it up. She said that Charlie Kirk used to always tell her all the time that he felt like he was a time traveler, that he was from another time. He was from another dimension, a whole nother timetable. And he's not from here. He went back in time and came here. Or the future, or whichever one it is. She believes that Charlie Kirk was a time traveler. She claims that Charlie Kirk used to tell her all the time that he was a time traveler, that he wasn't from this era. And Candace responded, I am not making this up. I know this sounds crazy. I do. Because it's insane. It sounds cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. What? What did you say? Candace, you're losing your mind. But she actually said this. If you're on X, if you're on Twitter, and you hang around that world, you already know this because you saw the clips. If you're not, go on X, go on Twitter, go on YouTube, or just look up her last episode. She's going to say exactly what I just told you, okay? She says that Charlie Kirk is a time traveler who told her he was always time traveling. He wasn't from this era. And that this is what she said to him. Well, I don't feel like a time traveler, but I feel like I'm an alien. Candace Owens believes that she's an alien. Candace Owens says she feels like an alien from another planet because nothing makes sense here. Everything down here doesn't make any sense. It's just ghetto. It's just a ghetto world. And that cats understand. She's more like a cat because cats don't want nothing to do with us because they realize how ghetto it is here too. That's exactly what she said. And although the world does seem trashy and ghetto, I don't think that Candace Owens is from another planet. Call me crazy, but I don't think that's the case. Right? And I don't think I am either. I don't think we are. I don't think all of us are. I think we're people from the world. She said that she told Charlie Kirk when he said that he felt like a time traveler that he was a time traveler. And she said that she was an alien. Uh-huh. And also, this is what she claimed. And there's going to be some Candace Owens people that will sit here and say, that's a straw man argument. You're straw manning it. She didn't say she was an alien. She said she felt like one. Okay. This is what she said. Go back and watch it. Charlie Kirk said she claims that he always told her that he was a time traveler. Then she goes out of her way to say that she doesn't deny that it's true, that she could see it. Then she said, I would always tell him I felt like an alien. I'm not from here, right? So you could say that someone will say, well, she didn't say she was an alien. Well, she did say she was an alien. But if Candace doesn't want to sound too crazy, she might say, well, I didn't say I was one. I just said I felt like one. And now they're asking all these questions I don't understand, you know? And, well, kind of like how you went on Bill Maher and you tweeted that you thought the moon landing was fake, and then you went on Bill Maher and said, I never said that it was fake. I was just trying to say that I felt like it could be. It was kind of funny. And then, like, months later, you came out and actually said it was fake and had people on your news, on your network that say that it was fake, and you swear to this day that it was. So that's really just a cop-out. Excuse me, to believe that if you said you felt like you were an alien, it's because you really believe you're one. And to try to digress, I never said blah, blah, blah. And then a couple months will go by and we'll find out that, no, I really think I'm an alien. It's not a straw man. It's what she said. Then she thinks that Charlie Kirk was a time traveler. And then she said, and she goes out to say this right here. Go watch the show. It's crazy. She says, Charlie Kirk, this is what she said. She said, this is what Candace Owens is now saying, that Charlie Kirk had handlers. He had FBI, CIA, government intelligence handlers. She said that she had handlers too. Candace Owens says she was being handled by the FBI. She didn't even know it, but now she knows it. And she said that Charlie had handlers that were with him ever since he was a little child. Ever since he was born, he was surrounded by these FBI, CIA handlers because she said that Charlie Kirk would walk past streetlights and the streetlights would go crazy and they'd blow up. Because kind of like she thinks that Charlie Kirk is 11 in Stranger Things and that he has such an energy about him that things around him would just destroy because he's a time traveler, not making it up. And that he had government handlers that have been watching him ever since he was a little child, ever since he was born, that have been standing with him and watching every single part of his life unveil. And that Operation Looking Glass, that they had an operation called Operation Looking Glass where they could see into the future, where they tried to see into the future through various means, well, she says that they stole ancient Sumerian technology from the ancient world. They gave them the ability to look into the future, and that they created an entire time warp system where they could look through it and see every timeline that would ever collide. These are Candace Owens' own words. They would see every timeline that there could ever possibly exist, And they would use it like deja vu to predict the future for how things were going to turn out. And that sometime in 2012 to 2016, for whatever reason, she doesn't make any reason for why this happened, that all of a sudden the timelines, they couldn't see to where they would go anymore. And they didn't know how they were going to end. So as a result of that, they were using this Operation Looking Glass to study Charlie Kirk, the time-traveling boy wonder who has electricity blow up when he gets too close to it, that they had been studying from the time of his birth and had been handling him with intelligence agencies every step of the way from the time he was born to now. And that while they were watching him, they were controlling him because he was such a powerful entity, and that when they looked through the looking glass, they saw where he was going to go, and then because they couldn't see where he was going to go anymore, they freaked out. And then when he started telling a different narrative, because he was going to change his narrative on Israel and the Jews, apparently, that's what she says, is that caused those handlers to freak out, and that they had to assassinate him to stop the timeline from going a different direction. Not making it up. That is what Candace Owens now believes and now perpetuates as her mainstream talking point conspiracy belief narrative. This is not some out there whacked out theory. This is Candace Owens, number one. This is the one she's going with. This isn't something she threw out there, someone told her. This is what she said is now her baseline belief. She is willing to die on this hill. This is what it is. Charlie Kirk, the time-traveling boy wonder from another dimension who blows up electrical signals when he walks by, was studied by the government because of his unique time-traveling indigo child abilities. And as a result of that, they looked through Operation Looking Glass and saw where he was going to go with his future from old Sumerian technology, and they stopped being able to see in 2012 to 2016 for whatever reason, so they didn't know where he was going to totally go, but they were watching to make sure he didn't go any direction they didn't want him to, and because he was going to change his narrative on Israel and the Middle East, they decided, the same handlers, that they had to take him out so that he didn't destroy the timeline, and they decided to assassinate him as a result of it, and that's the real conspiracy of what happened with Charlie Kirk's death and murder. And now, she ended the show saying that, and now her next show, whenever it drops, is going to be all about Operation Looking Glass and the SUMARIAN technology to prove that they were looking through it to see where Charlie Kirk was going to go. That's what she said. Candace Owens has completely lost her mind. She is gone. I can't defend her any longer. Anybody that knows me knows for the last decade, I have been the biggest Candace Owens fan in the world. Okay? But enough is enough. Okay? This is too much. This is ridiculous. I cannot defend Candace Owens at all any longer. I can't defend her. I can't say that I believe that she has pure intentions. I can't say that I believe that she genuinely wants to know what happened to Charlie Kirk's murder, and that's the reason why she's asking questions. I can't confidently say that I believe any of that. I don't know what to believe about Candace Owens anymore. I don't know if she's mentally unstable, if she's losing her mind, if she's having a perpetuated state of psychosis, or if she is filled with so much bitterness and hatred for the Jews and Israel, and she's so anti-Semitic that she would actually try to create this entire whacked out narrative to just blame Bibi Netanyahu and the Jews and Israel for everything, or that she doesn't believe a word that's coming out of her mouth, and she's really a narcissistic, sociopathic psychopath who's actually trying to make money off of the fact that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. She's really trying to make her podcast the number one most podcast in the world, and she's making money off of the blood of who was supposed to be like her brother, Charlie Kirk. Is that the option? Because, I don't know what it is anymore. I can firmly say that I don't believe that Candace Owens' motivations or intentions are pure. I can firmly say that I do not believe that Candace Owens is trying to find out who really killed Charlie Kirk, and that's what this is all about. I really can firmly say I do not believe that. So that leads me to a few options, which is one, that she is insane, and she's going through an episode of psychosis, and that she might get locked up somewhere, and maybe she might get a divorce and her husband's going to leave her because he realizes that he's married to a whack job, right? Either that's the answer, or she's filled with so much hatred and bitterness, which is malicious, ill intent, for the Jews in Israel, that she's willing to say anything that can make anybody want to destroy Israel, or that she really doesn't even believe anything that's coming out of her mouth, and she's a narcissistic, sociopathic psychopath who thinks it's fun to make money off of the blood of the guy that made her one of the heads of Turning Point USA and is the only reason she has a platform, and who she calls her brother, and now she's making money off of his assassination. And she's just all playing us for a bunch of things. Is that really what it is? You now think that you have a crowd full of conspiracy theorists, and now you're just trying to, well, it's getting me 3 million views every video, so if I keep on going, let's see how far we could push this. Now I know my audience is just a whack job of conspiracy theorists, and I have nothing to say, so I'll just shove the craziest conspiracies down their throat just to milk them for every penny they have. Like, is that really what it is? Is that really what it is? And making crazy accusations about Maduro and Venezuela, and how the Venezuelan people love Venezuela. No, they don't. That's why they're celebrating now, because the dictator's gone. No, a narco state is not okay. No, the drug problem and fentanyl are not okay. That's one of the major reasons why we wanted to have borders, and the whole reason ICE is here. You realize that, right? This is the left wing that doesn't want ICE and doesn't want to help the Venezuelan people, okay? No, Iran is an oppressive regime. The Islamic Republic is oppressive. The Persians need to be free. That's not Jewish propaganda. That's not Israeli propaganda. That's not American Christian Bibi Netanyahu propaganda. No, the Persians are actually in bondage and they want to be free. Yeah, that's Persian truth. That's Venezuelan truth. And of course, Candace also attacks Turning Point Faith, Turning Point USA, and all evangelicals. And goes on and on about the death of evangelicals are so evil. And Candace Owens has become a complete whack job of an individual. She's become a complete nutcase. And I've never said anything about her ever at all, whatsoever. But the hatred for the Jews, the blatant anti-Semitism, the Fakran mantra of the Jews causing slavery, the nonsense of trying to destroy Israel, saying that the Persians in Iran don't want to be free and that that's all Israeli propaganda. So you help perpetuate the oppression of 100 million Persians just because of your hatred for Israel? And you help perpetuate the oppression of all the Venezuelan people just because of your hatred for Donald Trump? Because of your hatred for Bibi Netanyahu and Israel? Going against evangelicals and Christians and trying to destroy Charlie Kirk's Turning Point Faith movement? By the way, he was a pro-Israel evangelical. Insulting Erica Kirk and his family and making crazy perpetuated claims about Charlie Kirk's sanity as well, that he was a time traveler. You want us to believe that he was like you and he thought that he was somewhere else? No, Charlie Kirk seemed a little bit more rational than that to me. And for us to completely overtake and overthrow everything that Charlie Kirk ever said about Israel, Christianity, evangelicalism, and all the world events. And by the way, Charlie Kirk would have been for the Persians and was against the Iranian oppressive regime. And by the way, Charlie Kirk would have been for the Venezuelans and was against the narco state of Venezuela. Okay? And the drug cartels. You want us to go ahead and disregard all of Charlie Kirk's entire legacy because of a couple of tweets that you supposedly received 2 weeks before he died that completely overturn everything that he ever said before. And that you're more of a stance because of Erica and his family and all of Turning Point USA. And it started off And, I don't like Nick Fuentes, really. I think Nick Fuentes is hilarious to watch. I watch him on a regular basis because I roll on the floor because I cannot stop laughing watching this guy because it's just funny, the things that he says. Now, I don't agree with Nick Fuentes on his stance with Israel or the Jews or any of this, but what he said about Candace Owens was spot on. His take is spot on about her going crazy. He was saying it started off as Turning Point USA was mad because there were millions of dollars there that they were going to lose because of Charlie Kirk, so they tried to cover up who really killed them. And then it turned into, by the way, the Jews in Israel actually helped them do it because the narrative that he was going to switch was for the Jews in Israel, and it was a Jewish donor. And then it turned into they then just to cover it up, they killed him. And then it turned into and Israel did it, and now it's Israel, Egypt, France, and the entire world and the United States of America, and therefore Mossad and the CIA and probably Trump are involved in it, and Macron as well, and that the reason why they all did it has now turned into because they were studying him ever since he was a little child, and he was a time traveler from another dimension. He was 11 Stranger Things, who's blowing things up with his mind, and they had to stop the Indigo Child from changing to a whole nother narrative because he was too powerful, and I'm an alien, and they were too scared of both of us, which is why they've been watching both of us, and they were using Operation Looking Glass to see where he was going to go, and since he was going to go a different direction, pro-Israel, they didn't want him to go, and he was going to help the Venezuelans get free from Maduro and help the Persians get free from the Islamic Iranian regime. So what really happened is that his handler, Erica Kirk, now she hasn't said that so far, but we're just saying that's the direction it's going, right? His handler Erica Kirk and their whole family and all Turning Point USA had to murder this guy because everything in his entire life was a lie, just like everything in Candace's life is a lie, and that's just how it is. You really want us to believe that? And now I feel more like what Piers Morgan was saying. I don't even like Piers Morgan. But I feel now what Piers Morgan was saying at the end of that interview with Candace, where he said, the thing is, Candace, because he's talking about how he doesn't like Alex Jones and Sandy Hook. I love Alex Jones. If you go back and look at it, I don't even think he said anything about Sandy Hook because he really didn't. He had a guest on there that talked for 10 minutes. He didn't say anything. He didn't even agree. And I don't think that Alex Jones he wasn't trying to attack Sandy Hook families. What he was trying to say was that the government takes advantage of situations like that to try to get rid of gun laws. I think that that's true. And he was also trying to essentially say that maybe the government was helped behind it, helped to orchestrate it on purpose just so that they could have propaganda against gun rights. I don't know. I could understand why somebody would think that. I could understand why someone would think that. I could understand why someone would think that. That's not because they're attacking the integrity of the children that were murdered, which is tragedy, obviously, or even the people and the parents and the people that were connected to it, because you feel horrific for them too. But that you think that the government is so evil that why would they not do something like that? It's because of your lack of trust for the integrity of the government. You would not put it past them to do something like that, which is, I think, what Alex Jones was trying to say. But regardless of that, Piers Morgan, he doesn't, I don't like Piers. But even he said, I think Alex Jones actually believed what he said about Sandy Hook. But you, Candace, I cannot say that I confidently believe that you actually believe the conspiracy narratives that you are perpetuating about Charlie Kirk and all this. And when he said that, I was like, that's big. That's big for him to say that, because what he's telling everybody at home is that he's telling them that in his gut, he feels like Candace Owens is really just trying to perpetuate the craziest narratives humanly possible just to get views and clicks, not because she actually believes them. I thought that was really interesting. And now that I see what she just said about him being a time traveler and Sumerian technology and Operation Looking Glass, I am now under the impression that that is probably correct. Candace Owens is quite possibly, if she's not having an episode of psychosis and she's detaching from reality, if it's not that, then it's only two other options, and both are filled with maliciousness and ill intent and are both horrific character traits. And that would either be one, that she was filled with so much bitterness, hatred, and anger for Israel and the Jewish people that she's willing to say anything to make people want to cause a second Holocaust. Or two, she is a narcissistic, sociopathic psychopath who feels absolutely nothing inside of her at all for the death of Charlie Kirk. And she's willing to attack his widow because she has. She used to say, if Erica tells me to stop, I'll stop. She did, and you won't. She continues to attack and doesn't care anything about his children who don't have a father, anything about his widow, who's the only resounding voice for Charlie on the planet. You continue to attack, so you lied through your teeth. You've been caught lying multiple times. You said that you had text messages where he said he was going to get killed. Erica Kirk rebuked you on live TV and said you do not have any such text message because I have his cell phone. He never said it. You've been caught lying about other text messages. You've been called out by Erica. You've been called out by Alex Jones. You've been called out by everybody. You, on national TV, had an anonymous tip from somebody that claims that this was connected to some sort of Jewish thing and some sort of address, and they baited you in to prove how much you don't fact-check your information, because they baited you in and then gave you the address, and the address was to your lawyer's office. And you went on your show in front of 3 million people and told them this whole story about this address and this lawyer and gave them the whole number, and then everybody came out and told you, Candace, did you check the address on that? Because that address is the address for your law firm, your lawyer's representative law firm. Then they spreaded that everywhere, and then I had to go ask Grok, because I had to verify, did she really do that on live TV? Is that really her lawyer's address and she didn't know it? And Grok and all the AI verified, yes, that was actually her lawyer's address, and it appears that she had no idea and that she failed for a prank tip. But that also shows you how much she doesn't verify her information, that she runs with anything that she ever gets. So you've been embarrassed in front of millions of people for perpetuating a false tip that was about your lawyer's office. You lied on blatant TV and said that you would stop if Erica told you to stop, and you didn't. You kept going. You have insulted and are now diluting the assassination and the blood of a martyr and political persecuted individual, Charlie Kirk, by going after his wife and ignoring the fact that his children now have to live not just with his assassination and not him being there anymore, but now they have to live with a whole memory of Candace Owens going nuts on them for didn't even wait till days after the fact to start a whole perpetuated narrative about him. After Erica Kirk and the children. And now you've gone so far off the deep end with crazy perpetuated narratives, and you tirelessly worked around the clock, been caught lying about text messages, rebuked by Alex Jones, who proved it, and then you want us to believe that Alex Jones is in on the New World Order to get Candace Owens. Yeah, of all people that just decided to jump boat to the New World Order to get Candace, it's Alex Jones. Been rebuked and proven wrong by Alex and many others and Erica Kirk about text messages you lied about. And you've worked tirelessly to destroy Turning Point USA today, Charlie's legacy, Turning Point Faith today, his legacy, to claim that he was not an evangelical and that he was becoming a Catholic. So you tried to destroy his entire testimony. And you tried to destroy his entire legacy. He was pro-Israel his whole life, but because Candace Owens thinks in 2 weeks he was changed his mind, he just is. All of this nonsense that you've perpetuated, you're either completely bitter against the Jewish people and you're trying to kill them. If you haven't lost your mind, you're either completely bitter against the Jewish people, you're trying to kill them. That's malicious. Or you're so cold that you don't even care that Charlie Kirk was murdered. And this is really all about your own narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopathic, get views, paid clicks and subscriptions, or whatever else it is under the sun, all for you. That is disgusting. That is disgusting. And if that is who you are as a human being, Candace Owens, then you are nothing that we ever thought that you were before. You are nothing of who we on the right wing, Candace Owens supporters, Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirks supporters, people that were anti-BLM, people that were fighting for the cause of showing people that the Democratic Party was full of crap and being against anti-white racism and all that, all the people that fought for this whole thing, you are nothing what any of us ever thought that you were before. You are a wolf in sheep's clothing, and you're a snake, if that's the case. If what I said is the case, then that is what you are. And you are not what any of us ever thought you to be before. And now it's coming to the light. Now everybody's seeing you for who you are. And that's really strange and really snaky. And if you are that person, if that is who you are, then we don't want anything to do with you. And we would have to, I along with many others, along with anybody who's not anti-Semitic and does care about Charlie Kirk and does stand for everything we originally thought that we were all standing for in the beginning, and doesn't stand for anybody with human morality that doesn't think that we should make money off of the blood of people's deaths or try to twist their whole life stories to create some sort of holocaustic nonsense about an entire group of people because we're mad at a few of them. If you haven't lost your mind, that's the only two options. And if you have lost your mind, then really it's still the only option. All of us, including myself, have to be forced to denounce you and denounce Candace Owens and all of her crazy, insanely out of touch and out of whack, conspiratorial nonsense, rhetoric, stories and perpetuated narratives, and whatever end goal that she's trying to get out of this. We would have to renounce and denounce anything associated with her, that entire rhetoric movement, and anything and everything that she's perpetuating or trying to do. And that is my final thoughts about that.